I apologize for being late for our next guest, but I was trying to just break down everything that I read in the 37-page affidavit that was placed in front of all of us, wondering what has been going on in the investigation of Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter from ESPN, Alden Gonzalez. Been all over this story. Was at the press conference yesterday, joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Alden?
I'm doing great, Rich. How you doing, man?
What was it like in that room yesterday, man, when the word 16 million came out?
There was honestly, I think there was an audible gasp. I'm not trying to sensationalize this, but right. I mean, there were 15 cameras in that room. There were dozens of reporters, and we knew that we were there for Ippei Mizuhara. I don't think anybody on the outside, and I don't think many people on the inside thought the final number would end up being more than $16 million. I think that's just a number that a lot of people have a hard time getting their head around for obvious reasons.
Well, I mean, and I was just doing the math out there because the numbers are just staggering. They really are, Alden. I mean, the fact that this guy bet so much and so often and won $140 million and change and lost $180 million and change. And then he ripped off Ohtani of $16 million, allegedly. So where's the other $24 million? Like, the numbers kind of don't add up, right? I mean, what is the status, best you know, on that, Alden?
Yeah, Rich, there's still a lot of unanswered questions here. And one of the questions that was posed was whether or not Shohei Ohtani is going to get his money back. And that's something that they don't know yet. As for the other $24 million, I can tell you that the illegal sports betting operation is under federal investigation. So I don't know that they're in a position to pay them or if they're in a position to receive money like that. But that's still left to be determined. I think, this happened pretty quickly. For it to be 3 weeks before they were able to charge Ippei Mizuhara with bank fraud was really fast. And because it was fast, I think there's just still a lot of questions that we still don't know the answers to. But I will tell you, and you went over some of this, Rich, before I came on, reading through that 37-page complaint. It is gambling addiction encapsulated. And I thought it came about as close to vindicating Shohei Ohtani in a situation that drew, understandably, a lot of cynicism from the outside as anybody could have possibly imagined. It is thorough. And I thought a few elements of that complaint stuck out to me. One was the fact that federal prosecutors combed through, it seems like, every text exchange that Ippei and Shohei had over that 3-year period in question and never found one reference from Shohei Ohtani to gambling, to props, to the bookmaker in question. There was evidence of Ippei from recorded phone calls with the bank impersonating Shohei Ohtani to get wire transfers through. And I thought the most damning part of it came at the end of that complaint, which is when these stories are finally breaking and Ippei Mizuhara reaches out to the bookkeeper to ask if he has seen the report. The bookkeeper tells him that it's probably not true and that regardless, he knows that he hasn't been stealing from Shohei Ohtani because he's been a middleman. And I'm paraphrasing here, obviously. Ippei said essentially, actually, that's not true. I have been stealing from him. Yeah. It is pretty damning. And just reading through all of it, I've read it 2-3 times already. There's so many parts of it that just I'm shocked by.
Yeah, Mizuhara used the word technically. I've been stealing from him, and I'd love to know his definition of technically because he was a technician, it does appear, in being deceptive. And the stunning details of deception that this lays out is shocking, but I think you do land on the most clearing, or I shouldn't use the word exculpatory, but I just did, for Ohtani, is exactly what you said, that 9,700 text messages in Japanese between the two men were analyzed, and at one point, I mean, even if he is covering his debts, as Mizuhara attempted in his first story to ESPN, to your colleagues, wouldn't you say that there would be a text saying, hey, did you make enough to pay me back? You know what I mean? Like, at some point, there was not even a reference to any of that, Alden, in these text exchanges.
Yeah, and I think, Rich, coming off of this, the big question I still have, and I think this was a question that a lot of people had initially when this story started to break, and some of the details of this are in the complaint, is how do you go 6 years with an account that, according to this complaint, housed all of the money that Shohei Ohtani made as a player, without anybody at his agency, without any of his financial advisors, demanding to either have access to that account, which had tens of millions of dollars, I would presume, or at least asking Shohei Ohtani directly about whether it's okay that Ippei Mizuhara has sole access to the account. And just to sort of catch listeners up on what I'm referencing here, Ippei Mizuhara started that account for Shohei Ohtani in 2018 when he came to the United States. And according to the complaint, Ippei told Shohei Ohtani's representatives, his financial advisors, that Ohtani wanted to keep it private. And the complaint states that they all went through Ippei Mizuhara to communicate about this account. And so nobody else ever had access to it. Nobody else brought it up to Shohei Ohtani. That's the most one of the wilder parts of the complaint to me. And I will say, in my mind, this kind of illustrates, if this is indeed the case, what is sort of a perfect storm around Ohtani when you have an athlete who is so hyper-focused on doing something that's never been done in baseball, coming over to the United States, not speaking the language, the dynamic of a Japanese player, Japanese superstar, and his interpreter, and how much an interpreter is in charge of. And just the fact that Shohei Ohtani and Ippei Mizuhara have a relationship dating back to 2013. The people at CAA, the people around Shohei Ohtani's inner circle, didn't get to know him until after that had been established. And so that could be a path towards why you would think they would only communicate with Ippei Mizuhara. But as I said previously, it was just the perfect sort of confluence of events, if this is all indeed the case, that would allow somebody like Ippei to wire $16 million from a player's account without that player knowing.
That's an interesting question. That if the bookmaker and financial advisor and CPA and agent had questions about this account, they knew it existed, they knew they didn't have eyes on it, and they would ask, according to this affidavit, Mitsuhara, hey, the issues we have with this arrangement is that if he makes a gift or does something that we don't know about that could be make him tax liable, that's an issue for us. And Mitsuhara's answer that they accepted, according to this affidavit, was, yeah, we're not doing anything like that. Don't worry about it. This is exactly the way Ohtani wants it set up. And I guess your point is that in the one or, I guess, handful of times that they would all be in the same room, they didn't bring it up right then and there. But then again, that's the other questions I have, too, is how much English does Ohtani know? Right? Like, would he have absolutely no idea? Because the affidavit also said, Alden, which is interesting, Alden Gonzalez of ESPN here, is the way that Ohtani found out about it in South Korea at the end of last month, and how he was in the room when Mitsuhara spoke in English to the Dodgers team writ large about what was happening, and he left that room without fully grasping what was happening because he didn't know. Right? I mean, what's the reporting on the way that everything went down in South Korea that you have, Alden?
Yeah, and Tisha Thompson, my colleague, initially reported this about Shohei Ohtani not really finding out, or at least even part of it, until that meeting in South Korea after the first game when Ippei addressed the team, other members of the front office addressed the team. And Shohei Ohtani, when he gave his long statement on March 25th, provided an element of this that, in my conversations with Dodgers officials, was an important part of this. And he said that before, and I hope I'm remembering the sequence of events correctly, I think I am. He said that before that meeting, Ippei Mizuhara told him, or after the meeting, told him, hey, look, we need to talk in the hotel one-on-one. So apparently, according to the complaint, according to what Shohei Ohtani told us in his statement, Ippei Mizuhara addressed the team, told them in that moment he has a gambling addiction. Shohei Ohtani has been helping him pay off his gambling debts. That story is going to come out. And according to Shohei Ohtani, the follow-up meeting was for Ippei to reveal this to him. So that's what's in the complaint. That's what Shohei Ohtani said previously. To answer your initial question about Ohtani's grasp of English, he knows English. He knows Spanish. How much he grasps it, how fluent is he? Probably not very much. I've been told by many people that he knows more English than people think he does. I think it would be fair to say he doesn't know English well enough to keep up in long conversations. It's gotten better. But that's another one of the more interesting parts, right? That you get to South Korea and you don't really realize this until Ippei is addressing the team. I will say too, Rich, what we were talking about with regard to the communication going through Ippei with regard to that account in question, I think it highlights how much trust Shohei Ohtani had in this person, how much of a responsibility this person carried for him. And if everything that's been laid out in the affidavit, which backs up everything that Shohei Ohtani laid out, if all of that is true, you sort of feel bad for Shohei Ohtani that somebody he relied upon so heavily took advantage of him in this way. But I do want to emphasize, we don't know that to be 100% true. Ippei is innocent until proven guilty. I'm just saying, if that is the case, you can't help but feel sympathy for him in that moment.
But the facts are just so damning. I mean, there's no question in my mind that if these facts were placed in front of me and I'm on a jury, there's no question the way I would go into the jury room and rule. I mean, this is really damning, to say the least, in terms of Ippei Mizuhara. Where is he right now? Where is Mr. Mizuhara as we're conversing?
I would assume he's in Southern California because he is due in court later this afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an initial hearing. He's gonna surrender to authorities. He's gonna be out on bond. I don't think he's gonna enter a plea, but he is expected at court. Last I heard, 2 p.m. Pacific time, Los Angeles.
I don't know. I'm looking at these documents. How does he have? Who's bonding him out? You know, is it Moscone? I mean, that's a Midnight Run reference. I'm sorry.
Well done.
Okay. So what's the other questions you have? Lastly, for you, Alden, like where do we go from here?
Well, the big one is going to be obviously what happens with Ippei Mizuhara, how far he takes this in terms of his defense, what his sentencing is. And look, the big question that I still have is the one that I mentioned earlier, is how does an account with tens of millions of dollars get in the hands solely of Ippei Mizuhara? How is it that even still, reading the affidavit and reading about how he impersonated Shohei Ohtani and how he got the account linked to his phone number, according to the affidavit, it's still hard to wire that much money, right? Like there are a lot of steps, I would think. I don't have experience wiring that much money, but I would think there are a lot of steps required in wiring that much money. How does that continue to happen? And how is it that there is not a single instance in a 6-year period where look, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback in these situations. I get it. But how is there not one instance in a 6-year period where you're not directly asking Shohei Ohtani, hey, are you sure that you're okay with this? Ippei keeps saying you want this private. Is that true? And if it is, it just goes back to the dynamic of their relationship and how much trust Shohei Ohtani had in Ippei.
Well, I guess the issue with that, Alden, is based on this document that in this affidavit that question to be posed directly to Shohei Ohtani would have to be posed through Mitsuhara. That's the, like that would have to be the moment where, hey, Ippei, you've got to ask him, and then they bring another interpreter in the room to make sure he's saying the right thing, although they might never have suspected that Ippei would not have Ohtani's back and would be so remarkably deceptive. That would have to be the case.
It sounds, and I think there is an element of this from Shohei Ohtani's agent, who is not named, but it's Nez Balelo, where he essentially says he had no reason to doubt Ippei Mizuhara. And it goes back to just how shocking all of this is. From the very onset, when there were so many questions around how involved, if at all, Shohei Ohtani was in this whole operation, this is not anything that anybody could possibly see coming. And in my time covering baseball, and it's been a while at this point, this is as salacious and as surprising a story as I've ever been in front of.
Alden, thanks very much. Look for more of our requests for your time as this story develops. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Rich.
You bet. That's Alden Gonzalez from ESPN right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.